What is the setting of the Bhagwad Gita? The Bhagwad Gita is a part of the epic Mahabharata, which is a story of princely clans running over many generations. So one group of allies by the name of Pandavas are ranged against their cousin brothers by the name of Kauravas. The setting is a battlefield. The setting is a battlefield. Krishna is the Sarathi, the charioteer of the lead warrior amongst the Pandavas. His name is Arjuna. We must go deeply into the setting first of all. There is a conflict. There is a conflict in which brothers, relatives, acquaintances have all been set up against each other. Arjun's great-grandfather is on the opposite side. Many of Arjun's friends are on the opposite side. 100 of his cousin brothers are on the opposite side. The teacher who taught him all his martial skills is on the opposite side. The teacher's son too is on the opposite side. A lot of attachment, a lot of past, a lot of relationships. And on his own side are his brothers, a lot of hurt, carryover from the past, insult that he has seen being meted out to his wife, his woes, his brother's woes, the feeling that he has been treated unfairly, the temptation to be a king again, the urge to get back what appears justifiably his. This is where Arjun is standing. All attempts towards pacification have failed. And now it is certain that there would be a war. And it's a great war. It's the war of Mahabharata. Not a single state across the northern plains, across Aryavarta, is insulated or secular at this point. Everybody has been forced to take sides. All kings, all princes are either on this side or on that side. There is nobody who can play indifferent. Such is the magnitude of the formation of the war, of the strife. And Arjun is the most renowned, most responsible, most fearsome archer. The Pandavas are lucky to have him on their side. And just when the battle is to commence, Arjun looks at the formation on the opposite side, and what does he see? He sees familiar faces, he sees his childhood, he sees his familial bonds. He asks Krishna, kindly take my chariot to a more central point. Kindly take it to a place where I can see who I am fighting against. Let me first of all know what is this battle all about. So Krishna obliges him, and Arjun looks at the faces of people he is about to fight, and his body starts shivering. He loses all interest in fighting. He says, what is the worth of a kingdom attained by killing one's own kins? I would rather die in anonymity and penury than be a king on the blood of my own. This is the prelude to the Bhagwad Gita. Once Arjun has expressed his intention to not to fight, Krishna starts talking to him. The dialogue between Krishna and Arjun that thus commences has been captured as Bhagwad Gita, the song Celestial. Myth has it that the entire conversation was seen by a third person called Sanjay, using his divine sight, and he chronicled the whole thing. But that is immaterial. What is material is, there is someone in the middle of a conflict. There is someone whose mind is divided. And there is someone who is advising him. There is someone who is telling him what his dharma is, what the right action is in such a situation. The 18 chapters of the Bhagwad Gita are all named as different yogas. These are the 18 chapters of dialogue between Krishna and Arjuna. Only if we understand the setting of the Bhagavad Gita would we also know then the meaning of yoga. Why is yoga needed in the first place? Krishna delivers 18 chapters, one after the other, to Arjuna, starting from Vishad Yoga to Sankhya Yoga to Karma Yoga, Karma Sannyas, Jnana. What is the need for yoga? The need for yoga is only when somebody is in the state of an Arjun. What is the state of an Arjun? An Arjun is anybody who does not know what is right for him, who does not know how to act in a particular situation, who is caught in decision making. Arjun is anybody who is stuck between attachment and action, past and prejudice, friendship and foes. Arjun is anybody who is torn between the various forces that can afflict any human being's mind. Any man or woman who ever experiences confusion is Arjun. Any mind that ever finds itself stuck, paralyzed, unable to move either way, forward or backward, and also restless in its current position, is Arjun. Anybody who has a Krishna in front of him but is yet caught in conflict is Arjun. If you are Arjun, then the word yoga is meaningful to you. Yoga is needed only when a man experiences contradictory forces. Only when a mind feels that it is divided between various segments of influence, and the segments are competing and contradicting each other. When the mind is in such a situation, then that which brings peace and resolution to the mind is called yoga. Yoga, hence, is the only thing relevant to anybody who is mired in strife, tension, indecision, attachment, grief, memories. If this is what riddles the mind, then what one needs is yoga. And if one's position is not the same as that of Arjun, then yoga is irrelevant. Whenever I speak on the Bhagwad Gita, the first question I ask my audience is, do you see that Arjun is not a person but a situation? Do you see that Arjun is a state of mind? And that situation is yours. That state of mind is yours. You have to see, first of all, that you are Arjun. And if you do not see that, why would Krishna speak to you? Krishna speaks only to an Arjun. If you are not an Arjun, what business do we have eavesdropping on the dialogue of two strangers? A Krishna is talking to an Arjun. What are we doing there? A Krishna is rendering some advice to an Arjun. Of what use is that advice to us? That advice is of use only to one person, and he is Arjun. Now, unless you are Arjun, why do you want to listen to that advice? So, first of all, one sees that the setting of the Mahabharata is highly symbolic. The battleground is not really a physical battleground, it is a literal, a symbol. An indicative thing. It indicates the world itself. One has to quickly come to terms with the symbolism. And it's a battleground in which one is not really facing strangers. Our world is a battleground in which we are positioned against those with whom we have relationships. If there is somebody as a stranger, it is quite unlikely that you would have a serious feud with him. Our most problematic engagements are with those with whom we have a past, a relationship, a history. Strangers hardly ever come to grieve us, to afflict us. It is those that we have shared our life with. It is those with whom we have had something to do. The battleground is our own life. Arjun's predicament is our own confusion. And hence, anybody and everybody who is standing confused, not really knowing who he is and what he ought to do, which way to move, how to decide, where to put in energy and from where to withdraw. That is Arjuna. So through all the literal tropes, we are being shown the situation of our own life and in the character of Arjuna, our own face. Yes? And then comes something that Krishna calls as yoga. If yoga is the antidote to such situations, you tell me what is the basic definition of yoga then? There is Arjuna who is in a particular situation, and Krishna is offering him yoga as freedom from that situation. So what is yoga then? Do we understand the situation Arjuna is in? Do we see that situation? Do we also relate to that situation? Now in that situation, Arjuna is suffering. chapter 1 of the Gita contains description of Arjun's suffering. He says his body is burning. He says his hand has lost the power to even lift his bow. Instead of standing up like a warrior, he is crouching. He has put his face on his hands as if he is hiding his face. That's his situation. Now, as a treatment of this situation, Krishna offers him chapters on yoga. So, what then is yoga?
The path to the end of suffering.
And what kind of suffering is it with Arjun? Is it some kind of physical ailment? Is it some kind of physical ailment?
No.
Is Arjun trying to realize God and failing? My first question is Arjun suffering physically? Is Arjun saying that, I am infirm of body and my back is aching?
No.
And one of my fingers is swollen? Is that his problem?
No.
So yoga is not being offered as a treatment to some physical disorder. Arjun is a stout warrior, physically strong, looks handsome, sturdy. He is the best archer. Nobody can match him. There is nothing wrong with his physicality. So, yoga is not being offered as a treatment to some physical ailment. Clear? At no point, while stating his predicament, does Arjun say that he is in a spiritual quandary. Arjun does not say that he is seeking enlightenment. Arjun does not say that his self-inquiry is stuck. Arjun does not say that he wants God. Arjun does not say that he wants to understand the origin of the universe. So is Arjun facing problems that we can classically call as spiritual?
No.
Okay. So it's neither physical nor spiritual. What then is the nature of Arjun's problems?
The mind.
Mental. Very, very mental and ordinary and all-pervasive and commonplace. Arjun's problems are
Commonplace.
your problems and my problems. Right? What to fight, whether to fight. Why not simply escape? Why not go somewhere and sleep peacefully? Why face the world at all? If I do this, what do I get and what do I lose? If I don't do this, would I be able to rest in peace? All these questions are not hypothetical questions. Arjun is not seeking pure consciousness or sublime awareness. Is he requesting Krishna to emancipate him from the bondages of the body and mind and take him to some other world where there is only unconditional bliss and total love? Any of that in the Gita? No. That is why the Gita is such a practical document, and that is why it has held its own through centuries and centuries and centuries. Because the Gita does not talk otherworldly nonsense. The Gita is a thing of this world. The Gita is addressed to someone who is facing very, very manifest practical and material problems. The Gita does not seek to cure imaginary diseases. The Gita is not about rising up into the heaven. The Gita is about living in this world. The protagonist of the Gita is in a very, very common situation. It is a situation that every man and woman on this earth can relate to. In fact, if someone says that he cannot identify with the situation of Arjun, then he does not know his own situation. There is nobody who is not an Arjun. And hence there is nobody who does not need a Krishna. Right? So Arjun is not asking that, Krishna, Lord, tell me what is moksha. Tell me how to rise into nirvana. Tell me the path of unconditional love. Arjun is not interested in any of that. Arjun is asking, here in front of me are my brothers. Do I fire or not? Fight or flight? Engage or escape? That hardly seems a spiritual question. And that's a funny thing, because whenever the situation is real, then the answer to that situation has to be spiritual. But whenever the situation is forcibly, artificially, dramatically created as spiritual, then the answer is always unreal. I'll repeat that. If you come up with a real life situation, then the chances that you would be able to enter spirituality are very, very high, because spirituality is the most real thing possible, the only real thing. Reality itself is spirituality. So only when you honestly come up with what is happening in your life would the doors of spirituality open to you. But if you come up with fancy, make-believe questions that really don't have much to do with your actual living, then all you will get is fairy tale answers. And fairy tale answers can please you but not help you. You can be very easily told that you are the Atman, and you can memorize that. But that really does not help you navigate through life. You can very easily told that you are just nothingness and sitting as a body. You take it to the heart that you are nothing and nobody. That gives you another nice concept to identify with, but does not really help you. What Krishna is telling Arjun is practical help. That practical help is called yoga. Practical help for practical issues in life. Direct, honest, to the point. What is happening? Let's talk about that. We are not talking spiritual fancies. We are not talking physical exercise. Unfortunately, that which we call as the realm of spirituality today has become identified with both or either of these and has lost touch with reality. In the name of spirituality, there is a lot of physical stretching. And in the name of spirituality, there is a lot of jargon. Yes? Stuff that sounds high flowing, big and ideal, but really does not touch you, really does not look at the way you live. Gita is real. Gita is real because Arjun's situation is not a made up situation, it is a real situation. The lesson is, unless you come up with what your real situation is, with what your real problem is, with what really vexes you, no spirituality is going to open up for you. Because spirituality is not about axioms or mantras or quotes or aphorisms. Spirituality is about directly knowing what is happening and who are you in the happening situation. Getting it? So, yoga then is the coming together of the various divided fragments of the mind. The mind is a wonderful thing. When the mind is divided, not only are the various divisions separate from each other, but they are also then distant from their common center. So then, the various parts of the mind, the various thoughts, the various influences, the various moods and opinions, they fight not only with each other, but also with reality. The center of the mind is the truth, which I'll also call as reality. Coarsely, you can take the mind as a sphere, a sphere having a center. When the sphere is broken, what happens to the various parts? They fall apart. They lose their natural cohesion. And when the various parts fall apart, not only do they lose touch with each other, but they also become distant from the center of the sphere. Yoga is to have an undivided mind, a mind that is not influenced. Because the only thing that causes divisions in the mind is the various forces of conditioning that the mind has experienced. Arjun has been taught that respecting elders is a virtue. Arjun has been taught that non-violence is a virtue. Arjun has also been taught that defending your territory is a virtue. Now these two things clash with each other. If he must defend his territory, then he must fight his elders. But he has been taught that not fighting with elders is a virtue, and parallelly, defending territory is a virtue. Arjun has been taught that one must take care of the interest of one's kins and clan. But Arjun has also been taught that one must take good care of one's wife. Now these two are ranged against each other. The kins have insulted the wife. Now Arjun must defend and avenge the wife. This is how the mind gets divided. Society influences it, media influences it, religion influences it. The entire gamut of experiences of the past influences the mind. The biology inherent in one's cells and tissues influences the mind. The country you come from, the system that you have experienced in terms of politics, economics, even ecology. That is what constitutes the mind. The mind is a bundle of influences. And these influences do not agree with each other. They fight with each other. Hence the contradiction, hence the strife that makes our life a battlefield. That is human suffering, that is grief. One part of oneself is fighting with another part. And none of the parts is prepared to be related directly to the center. All parts are off center and in disagreement with each other. Yoga is to have a composite mind. Yoga is to return to one's innocence, one's primal purity, in which the mind is not conditioned or stained at all. That is yoga. Still, you see, we have not talked about anything that is as gross as physical objects or physical body. Neither have we talked of anything that is hypothetically extremely subtle as divinity or godhood or enlightenment. Yoga does not pertain to either of these. I repeat, yoga is not about having a fit body. If it's about having a fit body, Arjun was the fittest of them all already. Why does he need lectures on yoga then? The fittest warrior is being given sermons on yoga. Surely, yoga is not about physical fitness. If physical fitness could mean yoga, then Arjun was already established in yoga. So yoga is not at all a physical thing. And yoga is also not about, I'm repeating this point because it is important, and yoga is also not about enlightenment or otherworldliness or freedom from this world or transcendental experiences or divine sparkles. None of that. Yoga means how do I live? Yoga means what do I do with my relatives? Yoga means how do I treat my wife? Yoga means if I need to invest everything in a conflict, would I risk my son's life? These are the questions that an Arjun faces. You getting it? If these questions are relevant to you, then the answers to these questions is called yoga. Yoga means coming together. Coming together. What can come together? Only that can come together. That is first of all not together. What is not together? The mind is that which is not together. The mind runs hither, thither, randomly, sometimes this way, sometimes that way. There is no inherent order. That lack of order is called viyog. That fragmentation is called viyog. Viyog is unfortunately the usual state in which mankind exists. Viyog means that the parts of mind are not in touch with each other and also not relating to any common center. Since there is no common center, hence there are 1,000 centers. Every part has its own center. The part that relates to career has greed and ambition and fear as the center. The part that relates to religion has tradition and deference as the center. The part that relates to family has attachment and security as the center. And all these centers are not at all obviously coinciding. So there is conflict. The professional in the office is not the same as the husband or the wife in the home. The father in front of the kid is not the same as the man who is talking to the neighbor. As situations change, new influences come and we start operating from a different center. Sometimes we operate from fear, sometimes we operate from attachment. Sometimes we operate from one identity, sometimes we operate from another identity. And the identities are not something that we control. The identities are dictated by situations. Once you are in your office, you have become a dedicated professional. Out of the office, you have become somebody else. That somebody else does not quite like the professional, hence conflict. You cannot wear the same face, you cannot operate from the same center. That is Viyog. To be living in Viyog is to be living in slavery of 1,000 different forces. You are at place 1, you are a slave to place 1. You are at place 2, you are a slave to place 2. Because the place is dictating your entire personality. The place is dictating the way you would think. The place is dictating even your core. Your very self changes according to the situation. That is Viyog. Yog is to have a self that is independent of situation, space and time. Yog is to be firmly rooted at a point that is untouched by anything that can touch anything. Arjun is constantly told, be yoga rudh. Yoga rudh means firmly seated in yoga. Firmly seated, so that you cannot be displaced, so that no vibration, no force, no temptation, no fear can really disturb you or dislocate you. Are we getting it? Finding practical solutions, finding real solution to the real situations of life is yoga. Yoga is just not about escaping into a fancy land. Yoga in fact brings you closer to the soil. The man of yoga is a real man. He does not live in imaginations. He does not have stories. He does not have concepts. He asks what really is going on. Like Krishna, like Arjun. Arjun, what really is going on? Let's talk, Arjun, let's talk. That is yoga. Yes?